Stacy Ziarko, and I'm the president and CEO of the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce. Joining me today is Luke Bonner, Senior Economic Development Advisor from the City of Sterling Heights, and Steve Couchman from Live Picture. And we are here today with Nick Gasiorowski from Manpower. And throughout the COVID crisis, we've talked a lot about talent, the need for, even prior to COVID, it was what the need for talent, the talent drain, and how really Macomb County and Southeast Michigan was in need of more talent. And so Nick, we're here today to let you tell us a little bit about what you see will happen kind of when we come out of our COVID crisis, what you see employers should be focusing on, and anything else that you would like us to know in terms of our talent. So Nick, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's interesting, just a few weeks ago, we were complaining that we didn't have enough people on ultimate lows in unemployment, and now it's spiked up. So it's the way a world of work is definitely going to be changing in regards to every aspect of it. So as we take a look, and as I'm receiving calls from clients, those looking for work and then those actually looking for talent, it's interesting in understanding how they're reconforming their workspaces because of COVID-19. Whether it's, your opinion is good, bad, or different, it's, ultimately safety is the key factor in this. The ways of work of us just walking into a facility and high-fiving coworkers, I think we're not going to see that for quite some time. With masks being, mandated in a lot of manufacturing environments and facilities. Temperature checking is going to be the new norm of walking into workspaces. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic for sure. And as we look at the opportunity that is truly out there with the candidate pool, I think employers are missing out on, they once had an employee that might have been mediocre, and now they should be looking at the candidate pool because of the unemployment rate being so high of how can you attract those better working or better talented individuals to come work for your organization, and looking at all the historical information that, whether it be Manpower or different organizations have provided on what workers were looking for in their workplace, and still applying those thought processes while attracting to work. Everyone's anxious to get back to work. The reality of my business is that we are getting phone calls every day. It seems like the phone just nonstop ringing, people wanting to go back to work and making sure that they have the right working environments to be safe. And that's really the new factor of reality is the employees are now asking, are gloves going to be provided? Are masks going to be provided? Plastic shields? How close is my working partner next to me? Those were questions that we never had, 3 weeks ago, and now it's the new norm of going through it. How healthy are you? So we're seeing that a lot of questions are getting brought up in the legislation about what you can ask from a health standpoint that's borderline HIPAA violations. So that is something that I'm in the company is actually paying close attention to. Right now, temperature checking wasn't necessarily allowed, and now it is allowed. And what happens to that employee? If they're signing off that they're perfectly fine and healthy, if the employer turns them away, are they getting paid sick pay? Are they getting paid show-up pay? What does that look? How does that look like? When people are checking in on a time clock, if there's a slew of people at the time clock, type of things. How do you educate people with allergies, for example, they're working in a workplace where if someone sneezes, everyone doesn't freak out. If you want to play a funny joke, do it at a grocery store right now and see the reaction that you'll have. I advise you not to do that, but I had a flip-flop on the other day and it made a sound, and you would have thought something bad happened in that store with the looks I got. So we just need to be more mindful and sensitive to that. We're all in this together. And just working within our own, whether it's the health department, the local city regulations, county regulations, or, there's rules that are going to be applicable, and we just have to, this is the new norm.
Nick, what are some of the industries where you have the most, you have employers reaching out to you in search of employees?
Right now, we are getting bombarded with orders and needs in the food, whether it be food manufacturing or the grocery stores. Believe it or not, they are still working around the clock. In addition to a lot of companies that were once manufacturing one item have now shifted. So we actually have a company that we're working with actually in Macomb that made men's shaving creams and other sort of creams that have shifted to making hand sanitizer. So you have companies that are shifting direction based on the needs as well. So those organizations are reaching out to us as well. But once a strong, heavy manufacturing, automotive manufacturing office has now turned into a food manufacturing, or not, food manufacturing and food distribution, and then also, I'm gonna say hygiene.
What, in terms of like workplace dynamics, you were talking about it a little bit in terms of how, I guess, more cautious people will be around others. Do you think that, I'll call it thinning out the daily work schedule is something that will be implemented? Meaning if I've got 1,000 employees, I don't want all 1,000 in the office or in the manufacturing facility at one time. I'm going to start allowing people to come in and roll in at shifts, so there's a lot less people. Therefore, spreading out in the office is easier. Do you feel like that is a strategy that will go into place?
Yeah, our senior leadership has actually mentioned that to us as well. You know, while working in an office, changing time so we don't have as many people in our office facility, but also in the manufacturing environment with, if you think about it from just the, I'm gonna say manufacturing, the standard manufacturing environment, you're so close to your coworkers. And I actually toured a plant last week, and they had to space out things further. So now where they once had 3 people working in an area, they can really only have 1, maybe 2. So their needs are going to be less, and they want to make sure that everyone's still working. So they're now rotating people's schedules and then having them do additional work in a different area of the building. So that's one employer that's in Macomb County that I'm so proud of what they're doing. They have the space to do it. So they eliminated outsourcing one thing, brought it in-house so their people can get their 40 hours. It's just a different environment. It's going to be interesting to see once the larger facilities are up and running, how they're going to be doing things. We've been asked by several different clients to ask about adjusted work schedules, shorter shifts. You know, can they do 6 days a week, but, you know, at 5-hour shifts, things of that nature, so people are still getting the work. The answer to your question is yes. I think it's going to be the company that can figure it out the best is what everyone's going to follow. At this point, everyone's kind of looking at each other to go, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are you doing it? Even to seeing it on commercials. I don't know if you recently saw the new Amazon commercial where someone is clocking into work and they're getting their masks through a plastic shield from a security guard who's also taking their temperature. You know, that was just one giant insight to help companies go, this is how you can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Amazon is already instituting those protocols right now because they're going to continue to grow. I actually saw an article. Mark Cuban was quoted that Amazon will continue to grow and grow and grow because of what's happened. This is making the shift towards online ordering and distribution of consumer goods even that much more prevalent than it even is today. Because of what people are just adapting their lifestyles to. Have you been doing any consulting with companies on kind of, you know, moving back into working order?
Yeah, I mean, the conversations we've been having are people wanting to go back to work, what's their comfort level, and then also really just working with our clients to understand what our associates are looking for, and then also with the health department and things of that nature. So from a consultant perspective, it's been more just being right there of what workers are saying and wanting, and just providing them with the guidance and resources that ManpowerGroup is collecting the data.
So this Oh, sorry, Stacy.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Just one quick question. So the onboarding of new employees right now is pretty critical, and the demand is high for companies that are adding employees. So what is the training scenario like? Is it pretty much trial by fire? Like, hey, we need you to do this tomorrow, and let's get going. Or how are companies actually managing in this time onboarding new employees?
Right now, a lot of the what we're doing right now, right? So we're conferencing in. I have been holding job interviews like this throughout the day. And that's what my recruiters have been doing as well. A lot of the information is you can interview the individual. This is very simple, but from a training perspective, they're relying a lot on the associate to understand, read more, ask more questions. So all of a sudden there's been this shift, right? So you had everyone going into an office, and now 80% of the workforce is now working from home and trying to navigate that, whether, with their kids at the kitchen table, the dog's barking in the background. Now all of a sudden have to self-train, self-teach a little bit more. The companies that were advanced in this are they're bringing people on. There's no issues. The traditional classroom trainings scenarios are still taking place, but they're just in a different setting from this. Workers are going to struggle with it. It's going to be that hurdle to get people over that hump. And it's going to depend on a lot of the worker, but also that company to help. Not everyone's going to get this. Not everyone's going to be self-taught, trained, motivated. And those are going to be, unfortunately, the skills gap for those individuals. They're going to have to learn those tools. And it's an unfortunate circumstance. But with, in Metro Detroit, I just think of all the not-for-profit organizations that are out there to help people learn new skills, learn new trades. I think there was a huge push, great push, giant initiatives, great, strong non-for-profits that are still around that can help them. And now it's going to be even critical at that point.
You brought up a really good point as you were talking earlier about when an employee comes to work, and if they cough, if they have a fever, and kind of that boundary line of HIPAA. And from an employer perspective, what kind, non-medical field related, I get in a medical field it'll be different, but in a non-medical field, are we able to ask those CDC questions? What are some things that we can ask to keep that workplace healthy?
Right now, the guidance that we've been given is to really the COVID-19 questionnaire. I think everyone's pretty much seen it. A lot of places you go to now have that. If you're not familiar with it, I could easily send it all out or just Google it. But have you been in contact with a COVID-19 person? Have you been running the temperature? Things of those basic questions, fever, and wish I had the sheet right in front of me. It's right over there. But those are the basic questions. And with the temperature checks that, are currently being done, it's you have to make that part of your new policy handbook, visitor guidelines. And from what we've been seeing, especially from our legal department, is if this is a new policy change, this is what's going on. People have to adhere to it, but you have to have it be clear as day. You can't let one person come in that has a fever and just say, oh, they always run hot. Well, no, I'm hot all the time, but I never have a fever. It's one of those situations where a lot of companies are looking at third-party resources to do this, to minimize the risk for it, and just really providing those healthcare guidances for that. Organizations that are having, Peggy Smith do the temperature checks at the front desk, yeah, you can get away with that, but your risk factor is going to be there, because if she lets someone else in that's sick and then you're exposed, the reality is that if they can show that they obtained an illness at the workplace in Michigan, you are liable as an employer for whatever they need. And that is a huge risk that, our governor's definitely taking a look at. I know I've seen some updates and things of that nature. And that's why the tracing of where COVID-19 actually started, who came in contact is so critical. While a lot of us might think that it's Big Brother watching down, the reality is it's for the safety of everyone. It's a sneaky little bug that unfortunately has claimed thousands of unfortunate people's lives. At the
Luke,
end,
what else?
if you're not good, don't go into work. Everyone has been that person. I know for a fact we've all been that person where we've gone to work, we had a little tickle, and then we're snotting all over the place, and you're just like, why are you here? I think companies are going to be revamping their PTO days, things of that nature. And all of this is moving so quickly and fast that it's interesting what's going to be just an overall new law and legal process, and the companies that are going to adapt, new policies and procedures to make sure that they have a healthy workforce all the way around. I mean, nobody wants to be the sick guy, but no one wants to be around the sick guy either in the office.
Right.
I got a quick question. Well, maybe it's not a quick question. For those people that are out of a job right now, what are your recommendations for what should they be doing right now when they're at home? I understand, you get your resume freshened up, all that kind of stuff, but is there anything else that you can think of, offhand that you would recommend for people to do that they normally wouldn't do if they were employed?
It's one of those situations where right now we're all in this together, right? So we're all feeling vulnerable. The individuals that are, out of work, let me first just say, hey, most of us have been there. And a lot of us are in it right now. The biggest thing is, yes, your resume, don't push it off. Get it updated and have someone else take a look at it. If you are unsure of, how your resume should be formatted, there's a lot of free services out there, nothing that you have to pay for, but reaching out to, people that are in your network and truly dig into what it is that you want to do. When one door closes, another door opens. And I know that is a very open statement that a lot of people hate hearing when they're unemployed, but it's one of those things where, what is it that you want to do? What was that passion that you once had that you never pursued? The way of work is always changing. And maybe it's time for you to reevaluate what it is that you want to do. I will say that a lot of companies have offered, they've eliminated someone's position or, and they said, oh yeah, we'll call you back. You don't know that. So you have to be prepared for the worst and, reaching out to individuals within the network. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, definitely connecting with that. There's a lot of different groups out there on Facebook, but reaching out and asking for help is never a sign of weakness by any means. It's actually, in my opinion, a sign of strength because you're actually admitting, hey, I need help with this and maybe you can help me out and what it is that you're looking for. In the recruiter world, you can give one resume to 7 different recruiters and you're going to get 7 different feedback. My biggest thing is making sure that when you are applying for positions, that you're providing a cover letter with information about who you are. You'll go ahead and ask 2 other recruiters or people in the recruiting industry, they'll say cover letters aren't important. Well, I'm telling you right now, they are. So it's one of those things where you're dealing with individuals and making sure that you're listing everything that you possibly have known, or systems, machines, be quality, have a good quality resume with numbers. So if you led a team, how big was your team? If you worked on an assembly line, how many parts per hour were you responsible for? Those are the things that when we're looking at candidates or when we're hearing from clients, they want to know about. If you worked in a fast food restaurant and, your restaurant was awarded, the fastest intake, I don't know, or fastest window, or you make sure that's known. You don't want your resume to be, an overall novel, but if you have a great story to tell, provide it. Again, it's all about opinions in the industry, but if the more information that you have about yourself on the resume, more likely you're going to get a phone call because if it's in line to what that position is. If you're looking at branching off into a new industry altogether or a new perspective, reach out to those networks. There's plenty of professionals out there and resource groups such as your Chamber of Commerce, that can put you in contact with people that have been in your shoes and situations. I was recently, contemplating, what happens if, Manpower decides to eliminate, my position, what would I do? And I reached out to a Dairy Queen owner because I want to own an ice cream shop. That's what I want to do. That's my passion, right? How did you get started? What do you do? And would you repeat the same mistakes? And I had a great Zoom call, and I was able to connect with that person through a personal network that I had no idea that this person owned the ice cream shop right down the street from me. Had no idea. So it's really, exploring. It will be frustrating for anyone when you're online looking at jobs and you're applying and applying and applying, and every day you don't get a phone call. You get the rejection emails that are system automated. Just keep in mind, it pays off in the end. It truly will, and that you have to pick yourself up and be positive on it. It's like going after that dream date that you have, and the first time he or she said no, and then you ask the second time, they said no, just go after it again. A lot of recruiting a lot of HR departments right now, they're bombarded. They're trying to stay on top of the ever-changing world, the new world that we're living in, and maintaining operations. And companies are getting very anxious to get back to work. Within the past week, I've picked up several new clients. We've picked up a lot of new job orders, and people are anxious and wanting to get out there. If you wait, that opportunity that you once wanted might not be there tomorrow because you chose to wait. So, whether it's designating 2-3 hours a day and jumping on the computer and you're forcing yourself to look for different positions or networking, the community as a whole in Southeast Michigan, I am just blown away by how everyone has come together on various different, whether it be Facebook or Nextdoor or LinkedIn, just holding conferences like, hey, we're here in this together. So a great company out in Auburn Hills, I always pronounce it wrong, their entire HR team came together last week, and they held open interviews, but it was open resumes, and they were trying to help the community just updating the resume. Whether you wanted to work for them or not, they were doing that. And you're going to see more and more companies, I think, do that to help each other. Because this is it's a scary time, but you have to be positive. I always say, if you want it, you got to put it out there in the universe. You have to say it out loud, and and chase it. That was a very long answer, but
good information
about it because I've been in those shoes. I've been unemployed, and it's frustrating. You have skills and talents, but yet nobody is calling you back. That's why, in my opinion, it's always have a resume, send it to somebody. Hey, take a look at this. And then if you have an HR professional or HR colleague, friend, recruiter, call up a staffing agency and say, hey, can I send you my resume for your review? Just tell me if it's good or bad. We'll do that for you. I mean, that's what we're here to do. So very passionate about what I do. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a lot of really good information.
It was really good, Nick.
And I do see, this is similar, but also extremely different than the Great Recession. I do feel as though, given the circumstances, that there is a more immediate support and outreach to those that are unemployed as a result of what's going on. And I do feel like there's more community connectivity around that, and just more supporting those that are losing their jobs because of this, of all things. And I think that's a true positive. And hopefully, was it pain is temporary, pride is forever? Hopefully when things return to normal, that, some things can pick up where we left off, and the expediency at which people are hired back happens versus a very elongated process of recovery, which is what we went through last time.
I think too, it's this experience is really teaching all of us. I'll say for me, for example, it's what I can live without, and really re-teaching me what is really important in life, and you know, kind of teaching me to be a minimalist. I've been getting rid of a lot of stuff in my house that I'm just like, I don't need this anymore. I'm not gonna lie, I miss going to, um, Lakeside and Macy's and going shopping and stuff like that. But at the same point, I really probably didn't need another black t-shirt, because I have about 70 of them that I've learned, because I've reorganized all my closets by color, then size, and then by brand. And all my socks actually match now. So
Well, it's funny you bring that up. I actually posted on Instagram this morning my quarantine closet consists of about 4 pieces of clothing.
oh, okay.
Just recycle every day.
Yep, there you go. So I think it's teaching us all a new thing. So you might not need to have that luxury job that you once had, or whatever the case may be. And it's really just looking at things in a different light. My biggest suggestion to anyone out there, though, that is taking, let me rephrase this. Anyone that's out there that is stating, well, if I'm getting the government money that I'm making, and by going back to work, I'm going to be making less. I urge you on the side of caution. And the reason why I say that is, if the opportunities are there, take advantage of it. Because if you wait till that money is done, you might not like the job opportunities that are out there, because companies have figured out what shifts they need, or they don't necessarily need 60 people to work on a line, or whatever the case might be. They don't need that office staff. You might have limited job opportunities that maybe are less desirable to you. So the faster you're able to get back to work and find something that you enjoy doing, the better off you're going to be. Your friends, family, they're going to see that excitement inside of you. And my biggest phrase is, if you're skipping to work, people want to be around you because you're happy and cheerful. If you don't understand that phrase, it's because you're happy and cheerful. I used the peanut butter effect the other day, and nobody understood that phrase either. So,
I had a member reach out to me last week. You kind of brought this up in your last comment about the unemployment package right now is great. It is well designed to, erase the stigma of unemployment and to kind of take that away. The employer reached out and said that she did have an employee say, well, I don't feel safe here, even though they had provided all of the necessary precautions, and said, I can collect more money sitting at home by collecting unemployment. What is some advice you would give to an employer if an employee does come to them and says, you know what, I don't feel, even if they, let's say, for lack of it, they are safe. It is a safe environment. They are being provided with all the necessary things they need to do their job and to be safe. What is something that an employer can do?
So I will say that is, unfortunately, I feel like that's going to be a very common thing in the beginning. Documentation is going to be key. So when that individual does state that and they file for unemployment, you do receive your letter in the mail contesting the unemployment or just asking about it. In the event that you have documented all of the steps that you've taken to make an employee safe in your working establishment with new procedures such as temperature checks, safety shields at the checkout, or just safety shields in your office, providing face masks, all of the things that you've done to change, you need to document. That will then be sent in as you contest the unemployment, and that individual could be denied unemployment. Yes, they can take it to a higher level. They might still obtain the federal dollars, but at least it's not hitting your unemployment. And at the end of the day, if you have to put yourself in the employee's shoes. If they feel unsafe, listen to them, see if there's any merit to it, or are they just not wanting to work? So documentation, but also holding forums, whether they be anonymous surveys, suggestion box, to listen to your employees. Just because you might think everything's fine, you might be missing an element, such as the bathroom sinks are too close together. So if there's two people in the bathroom, they don't feel safe in the bathroom because the sinks are too close together, the faucets are too close. Something I never would have thought about, but came up during a plant tour last week with one of my clients. We took their team lead, myself, their HR, and then their operations person, walked through the plant. They said, yeah, I'm amazed, but I think the bathrooms, I don't want to be that close to somebody in the bathroom. And I'm like, what? I'm confused. What are you talking about? We went in there. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't see it. The employer didn't see it. So it's just one of those things where documentation is going to be key. I know some clients have called me and said, all right, now if you do the math, it's about $15 an hour unemployment's getting paid. Nick, I'm only paying $12 or $13 an hour. What's going to happen? Well, we'll say it's going to be harder for you to find people, but not necessarily, because there are people out there that are anxious to get back to work. They've had enough time with their kids, their spouse, their dogs, their mom, their dad, whoever they're locked up with, and they want to get back to work. And as long as you're providing, a wage that works for them and an environment, there are plenty of people out there that are ready to go back to work. And we might see an increase down the road that needs to shift, but I think as a temporary fix that the government provided to help all of us get through this, it will come to an end. And we won't be making money on unemployment like some people are, but I understand why the government did what they did. I thank them for that, but when it's safe, we all have to just take into account it's time to get back to work.
That's all I got. Luke, do you have anything?
That was just really good, Nick. And I agree. You're very passionate about what you do, so thank you.
Thanks.